Hello and welcome back to the Mompowerment podcast. I'm Ramatan.
I'm Isar.
Today we're going to dive into something that we don't always talk openly about, which is the topic of mom rage. We're going to talk a little bit about where it comes from, how it manifests basically, how do we feel it, and why it happens. And we just want to emphasize that this is really, we're going to talk about our own experiences to help other moms feel less alone.
So, interestingly enough, I've never really heard of the term mom rage, especially in the English world. I actually started hearing about it more from the Francophone world of la rage, but they used it in English, saying mom rage. But I've actually never really heard about it that much. And it's not an official clinical term. So it's not like something you go to a doctor and you say, oh, you have mom rage, compared to like postpartum depression, But so what it really is, it's like these deep feelings of anger, but that stems from exhaustion, overstimulation, lack of resources, stress, but it just sometimes creeps up on you. And I don't know how else to describe it besides you literally feel rage. I feel like I'm fuming inside when it happens to me. And it carries a lot of guilt, shame, regret, that are all not the same definitions either. Sometimes we blend them all, but it's not the same. And so when we don't hold space for it, it could actually make us feel very lonely, especially in a world where we feel like we're moms with multiple hats and then we have to show up perfect in every single sense of it, which we can't. That's actually part of the problem.
Yeah.
It's part of the problem. And so before we kind of dive into it a little bit more, I want to touch on some data. I'm going to put on my Remy hat here. And there was a survey in 2021 that showed that 74% of moms were actually responsible for the majority of the child care and the housework and possibly working full time. 74%. So what that means is that there's 70% of women that are carrying all of the mental load. And you know what? You can have great partners that are sharing a lot of it, but there's just this umbrella that covers, or this like cloud over moms, where there's different expectations of them. Because a dad that is taking their kids out gets acknowledged of, look, it's amazing how you're so involved and whatever, but a mom who does it, it's just, that's expected of you. A dad that goes and does the grocery shopping, oh, it's amazing how you're helping mom, but when a mom does it, it's just, oh, you're grocery shopping.
It's invisible.
Exactly. It's that invisible load and these expectations that are attached to moms, that when dads do the same thing as they should, or that's how couples are now, especially, they get like a trophy for it. Whereas when moms do it, it's just a given. And when they do an extra thing, it's like, oh, it's not always seen as a good thing when moms do extra stuff. It's like, you're trying too much. You're making us look bad. There's like, the notion around it is not necessarily the same. There's also research that is showing that emphasizes how moms are a lot more under pressure, because there's also this notion of gentle parenting. So they're not really supposed to be angry, upset, or impatient, or raise their voice, because they're supposed to be gentle parenting. And so that also contributes to the mom rage, because you're bottling everything up, because you're supposed to be this smiley mom, and this like, let's do activities, let's do pretend play, let's do Montessori this and Montessori that, and let's do activity this and let's do activity that, and all while practicing all of your kumbaya and staying calm. Then of course it's gonna manifest itself somehow. Not acknowledging or holding space for our feelings of anger, frustration, because those are normal feelings to have. They're emotions. Exactly. They're basic emotions, adds to that fuel. So even though this is not a clinical term, the mom rage, something clinical that happens to women is the hormonal shift. you go from pregnancy where you have a change in your progesterone and your estrogen, and then when you give birth, your hormones drop and that shifts. And then if you're breastfeeding, it like fluctuates even more. If
Mm-hmm.
if you were breastfeeding and then you stop to go for formula, that has another shift. And then your period comes back after 9 months of not being there. It just suddenly shows up, and then a fluctuation happens, and then your hormones don't necessarily balance out the same way.
Yeah.
And then if you take a contraceptive, that has another shift.
Exactly.
So all of that has an impact
Mm-hmm.
on how you're experiencing your emotions.
Yeah.
And so mom rage in itself is not something that we talk about a lot, but it's very much present. And yeah, so that's what we're gonna really talk about a little bit our own experiences when it comes to that. But something to hold on to is that it doesn't, when we're experiencing that rage, it doesn't mean that we're a bad mom. It's actually a signal or an indication that we're
Mm-hmm.
lacking resources and we might need help. And that kind of touches on what we were just talking about in terms of going back into routine and like the school routine, the stress, the going to work, the being tied to schedules. All of this could actually be external factors that might contribute to this.
Yeah.
But how do we first recognize what it is and then move into how do we address it when it's happening?
For me, it would always show up whenever there was some kind of like loss of control. So either my child was having a tantrum and I was trying to get something done or whatever. So
Mm,
basically, like too much happening at the same time. And
mm-hmm.
then the tantrum, obviously, like, especially in the early years, it's very hard to calm them down. Like, you can use all the techniques of gentle parenting, but in those early years, sometimes it's just hard.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's not going to work.
yeah.
And in those moments, if especially if you're rushing or you're trying to do something else or whatever, and then the tantrum comes and just overwhelm, like the overall feeling of overwhelm gets to you, and then that's when, like, you could lash out or whatever. uh and I used to feel so much guilt about it. I still feel,
Mm,
of course, like I still feel guilt about it,
yeah,
but that's when, like, you know my husband would take over. He'd tell me, like, go take a walk, go outside, go even just go in the room, like,
yeah,
get some alone time a little bit, calm yourself, I'll take care of the kids, I'll take care of this. And he would kind of take over so I can get that um, moment of calm and, like, get back to
yeah.
normal, basically. Yeah. What about you?
So interestingly enough, I experienced mom rage very different with my first versus my second. In the first, I started experiencing it more when I was feeling the pressure of that first mom. Like, you're
Yeah.
supposed to kind of know things, you're not supposed to really know everything, and then you want to show that you got things covered or you know what you're doing. And then trying to do everything, and then I realized I was just adding a lot of pressure on myself with I need to know everything and I should know and I know how to do things, and I was reacting negatively when I would get certain feedback, and it was like advice, it was like thoughtful, considerate advice, but I would take it personal because I would
Yeah.
see it as you're saying I'm a bad mom. That's all
Yeah.
I would hear.
Yeah.
And so it would come and show up for me where I'm trying to do things and I'm trying to do too many things to make it look perfect, and then I start getting angry or frustrated when things are being undone, or like, my toddler was just being a toddler and like he plays and it makes a mess, and then I start like freaking out. And when I say freaking out, I would get really like angry. I
Yeah.
would just get angry. And
Yeah.
before this, I was not generally an angry person. I'm like,
Yeah.
who the hell
Yeah.
is this person? Where did she come
Yeah.
from? you know but it was still subtle. With my second, it's overstimulation.
Mm-hmm.
I get sensory overload, and I wasn't paying attention to it. So,
Mm-hmm.
for example, like it's like dinner time, you're preparing food, the kids are playing, and I don't know why I decided in that moment I'm going to listen to something like with my AirPods. Be it sometimes I could decide to call my sister and we're just talking on the phone, or sometimes I'm listening to like something and I'm like I'm adding extra layers of stimulation because I'm listening to something, I'm trying to focus on cooking, the kids are playing and being super loud. Sometimes the TV is on too, and it just all of a sudden, like, and then my kid just comes up, mommy, I want, and I'm like, why do you? And I just become
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
explosive. I
Yeah.
actually, I don't know how to explain it, but I literally
Yeah.
become explosive. Whoever's watched Inside Out, that like anger emotion when he just blurts out
Yeah.
and like fires fuming, that's me. Like
Yeah.
literally, that's, and I don't recognize that part of myself.
Yeah.
And it becomes super hard. And like there's so many times where I've broken down and I start crying with my husband. And I'm like, I don't know her. Like, what the hell? Like, I don't like this. I don't like this feeling. And oftentimes I found myself stuck in this victim mentality where it's like, it's always because of this and it's that and this and that. And there's, at a certain point, I didn't really stop and be like, what is going on?
Yeah.
What am I also, like, what is in my control in this sense?
Mm-hmm.
One of the things is I wouldn't recognize that part of myself. And I'm like, okay, what's in my control? I can't just sometimes keep complaining about it. And the part where I really noticed a shift where it was like at its peak, it's when I stopped like I was weaning off my daughter from breastfeeding, and I felt like this big wave of emotions that were just shifting a lot, and I was just getting snappy at everything. Everything wasn't irritating me,
Mm-hmm.
and I would like fixate on certain things that was just like triggering me, upsetting me, and I just didn't like it. I didn't even like the conversations I was having in my head, like be it, I felt like I was more judgmental of myself and of others. And I was like, I don't like that. I don't actually believe in that. That's not something that resonates with me. And I felt that I was just taking things a lot more personal. I was making things about myself that has nothing to do with me. So that's why I was just, something is off.
Yeah.
And it was also something that I needed to pay attention to, is that it was also not fair for my kids or my husband to be subjected to it every single time. Because, like, for example, my husband was being super helpful. Like, when I say helpful, not about, I'm not talking about chores. Like, that part, like, we got it
Yeah.
covered
Yeah.
and whatever. But as in, he was holding space for me. He was like letting me, and he would tell me, like, go, take a pause, go walk, go, like, whatever, it's fine. Like, and sometimes I'd be like, why am I still complaining?
Yeah.
Like,
You
there's,
feel guilty for
yeah, but because he, like, there's things lifted off of me,
Yeah.
and yet I still felt like crap. So I'm like, what is
Yeah.
going on?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's like, for me, it was like indications of like, okay, I can't keep making it like it's an outside thing. There's a part that belongs to me. Yes, I'm going through a hormonal shift, I'll hold
Mm-hmm.
space for that, but what am I doing to alleviate some of
Yeah.
that?
Exactly.
Not just what my husband is doing to alleviate from me, but what am I working on? What's really like part of that belongs to me that I can work on?
Mm-hmm.
Because I just hated that when I would feel this sound, and I would, like, sometimes it shows up for me when I'm driving and the kids are like nagging and I'm trying to focus on driving,
Oh
and I
yeah.
just get so angry and I
Yeah.
yell at them and they
Yeah.
go quiet, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I messed up.
Yeah.
I just go and like, I messed up, I messed up. What was that?
Yeah.
And then I start crying and I'm like, oh my God, like I really,
Yeah.
I'm a horrible mom. And I had this conversation with some of my other friends, and I was talking to them about it. And they're not Arab or Muslim or anything like that. So it was actually interesting to hear from their perspective, because sometimes I'm like, is it just, is there like things that are cultural that I'm attaching to that is
Mm-hmm.
adding more layers of pressure? But then when I talk to them and we're like, oh my God, you're like that too?
Mm.
And then like, it just feels like, again,
Yeah.
we don't hold enough space for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of like how it shows up or manifests itself to me. These are like different ways that it would show up for me.
Yeah.
And you know ways that I started to navigate it is I went back to therapy. Like, I went back to checking in with my therapist, and I don't actually go all the time. I actually go to her when I feel like I can't do this by myself and I need this external person that could just guide me through my emotions. And I was able to really dig deep into some of it, where my own root causes of where it's stemming from and how to kind of reframe things when I catch it happening.
Yeah.
um I went back, like this summer I really practiced journaling a lot more.
Mm.
Sometimes I talk about it and I say like you should, but then I don't always do it myself. And
Yeah.
I took out a timer and I would time myself and be like, you just need to write out everything that you're feeling, even thoughts that I would feel like ashamed to say verbally out
Mm.
loud, that I write it down.
Yeah.
That has been helping. I'm still like I'm still doing my workouts where I just feel like I'm taking out some of the
Yeah.
energy and
Exactly.
holding space for that. But it was really just acknowledging that I don't like what I'm feeling right now. but I'm prioritizing addressing it and putting techniques that will help me. So when I know I'm being more preventive, like I know I get really triggered or get like that rage is about to like happen is when I'm running late,
Yeah.
or if I have like an unexpected things that I need to go plan for, and then I don't have anything ready. So, for example, just something so simple, but this summer I was really into, I really want to go have picnics and stuff like that. But I just know myself that I like when things are done a certain way.
Yeah.
I like being prepared for whatever.
Hmm.
And so, something I started doing is that every time we go to a picnic, when I come back, my little picnic bag already has things for the next outing.
Yeah.
And it's something so simple, but like I have extra disposable plates, I have extra like the napron, I have extra this and extra that. I just prepared myself for the summer so that when we're having a spontaneous let's go, I'm not there angry, do
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
and do
Yeah.
that. Like my outings became
Rushing. Yeah.
lighter because I have a need for that. I'm not gonna come and project it to other people, but I am like that. So I like having things prepared. So I just prepared. And then now when somebody says let's go, it's so much easier for me
Yeah.
because I have, yes, it
It's not
requires
stressful.
preparation, but
Yeah.
I have to choose my battles.
Hmm.
At least I'm not gonna rage at people or like my family just because I don't have utensils ready or anything like that. So it's just like trying to really, identify my own triggers to certain things and how I can depersonalize them. And like now I actually pause and ask myself questions of, you know, does this belong to me? Does it belong to the other person? What's really in my control? It's okay if I don't have things like all put together. Like I try to really identify what are my must things to do for that day,
Yeah.
um, or like just give myself more grace with resting when I need to rest. But even now when I rest, I try to rest with intention. I don't want to waste my time going on Instagram and calling it rest. It's not rest because I'm mentally stimulating my brain with reading things about my kids or watching things and
Yeah.
comparing. It's not actually rest
Exactly.
for me.
Hmm.
So, or like rest as in I'm just gonna watch something. I actually haven't been watching anything
Yeah.
as much anymore. And it's not to say that that's still rest for others. I'm just talking for myself. I noticed that for me, rest means putting an intention on what is going to serve me in my everyday aspects. So sometimes my rest isn't actually resting and like
Yeah.
not doing anything. It's ticking off a mental load
Hmm.
that for me is important, but I haven't prioritized it. But every day. So for example, my storage room this summer was a disaster.
Yeah.
A disaster. So every time I would go into that room, I would feel
Yeah.
like, oh my God, I have to. So I had set a timer. Like I told my husband, I'm like, you know what? I know I wanted to take this day to rest, but this is actually giving me mental rest.
Hmm.
I need to take it off. But I also need to not have the kids around me and I need to not be doing other things at the same time.
Yeah.
So that's how I prioritize how can I be productive in a task that's going to give me like a sense of peace, but I'm not multitasking at the same time. That's slowing me down because that's what I end up doing sometimes.
Yeah.
And I add to that frustration. So I set up a timer and I was like, for 2 hours, all I'm going to do is clean up the storage room. And I did it. I did the whole thing. And now every time right now when I go in, I'm like, I know where things are.
Yeah.
I'm not like angry because I
Yeah.
can't find things. And that's like, again, it's prevention. I'm
Yeah.
all about like,
Exactly.
what can you do? So for some, it's like, oh, but how did you rest? Like, that's not really rest. It is rest when I know what my triggers are. I
Hmm.
get triggered when I can't
Yeah.
find my stuff.
Exactly.
I get triggered. And I'm not like, I always say this, I'm like, I'm not always organized where things are labeled and I know where things are and whatever, but I need to know where certain things are. But if I don't put them back because I don't have a place for them and I just toss it, then it becomes just an added
Yeah.
layer of stress for me. So that's where a little bit.
It's all about your own needs at the end of the day. Like we're not all the same. Not everybody needs like everything to be a certain way, but you acknowledging that that's a need for you is very important, you know.
Exactly.
um, I just want to come back to the overstimulation because it made me think of how we live in a world of high expectations because of social media. And
Mm,
I mean, we are, it's not that we're putting this on ourselves, but I mean, it's not, and unconsciously we are because of social media. We're always seeing like these perfect homes, perfect moms, perfect like baking, whatever. Like, it's unrealistic expectations that we put on ourselves. I used to get so much like it's actually real, like real anger. It feels like real anger just because like I would, clean up the living room, and then the kids would come and play like they
Mm-mm.
should. I mean, they're kids. They would come and play, and everything would be like the cushions would be all over the place, the toys would be all over the place, and then I would find myself like constantly telling them, okay, if you're gonna get a new toy, like you have to clean up this and whatever. And I wouldn't like the person I would, not that like teaching them to clean up is bad or anything, but I mean the way I was doing it, the way that it would make me angry, and I would
Mm-mm.
project that anger onto them as
Mm-hmm.
well, is not healthy. And like acknowledging that, and working on it, and also at the end of the day, I mean they're kids.
Yeah.
Like at a certain, there is going to be a time for them to be a little bit more conscious of like their surroundings and cleaning up after themselves and whatever, and it's healthy to do it in like small increments. But to expect a 2 or 3 year old to like clean up after they played and whatever on their own, and it's just unrealistic.
Yeah.
Your living room's not always going to be perfect, your kitchen's not always going to be perfect. You have to accept sometimes
Mm-hmm.
that mess is part of like having kids. And it's it's actually like sometimes you can reframe it and see it like it's a good thing. I have kids who play, I have kids who eat, I have kids, like, I have a healthy family, happy family, like. So it's just, we're constantly like trying to improve ourselves and catch our triggers, uh reduce the overstimulation, obviously, but also like social media for me, I've really like limited the time that I spend on it, because I realized unconsciously how, like, just how much it affects me
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
um
Well, like what you just said, to reduce that noise. It's kind of like
yeah,
it's to reduce that overstimulation
exactly.
of like last time when I was driving, it's almost like this. I have this need to always be productive about something,
Yeah,
and like you said, it's like these high expectations that we have and stuff like that. So that's why I'm like, okay, I need to rework that because I'm driving, and instead of choosing that silence, I end up putting a podcast
yeah,
on or listen, like even music,
yeah,
anything like that. I just end up feeling, but why? Why can't I just
exactly.
sit with silence?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
so it's like that discomfort of sitting with silence that becomes, and again, because we're so used to, like, we're hooked on our phones, and like, sometimes when we're in, even with family gatherings, when everybody's on the phone, like sometimes I'm not even on my phone. And then I'm just waiting for like a conversation, but then I look up and everybody's on the phone. So I end up going on my phone. And then
yeah,
somebody decides to put their phone down and they realize, oh, everybody's on the phone. Yeah, because that's
yeah,
what happens when we're so used to being hooked on it.
yeah,
Um, I actually I was telling myself today, this morning, I was like, you know what? I need to put a timer on my phone again where it tells me
yeah.
stop using it,
It's
like,
really
and I'm like, it's
addicting.
crazy to think that I need to do that.
Yeah,
But
I
yes, I
know.
sometimes need to do that.
Yeah,
There was a time that I was really controlling it. And then, with everything happening in the news, I was always hooked on my phone because I'm watching what's going on. And I'm like, okay, it's a privilege to be able to turn off,
exactly.
and the phone. But I was like, I want to use it with intention and not just doom scroll. Like
Yeah,
that's where I feel like I'm wasting my time.
yeah, definitely.
um so again, it's not about being efficient with time. It's just using it where it actually is serving me.
Yeah,
And oftentimes I hear like, oh, but I don't have time. We all have the
yeah,
same amount of 24 hours. It's how
exactly.
we choose to utilize it.
Yeah,
And sometimes, yes, our kids, like even with the kids, sometimes when they come to me and I answer them so abruptly or irritable, I actually sometimes pause and I'm like, why am I reacting that way? And it's because they've actually asked me nicely a few times, but I'm not paying
exactly.
attention. I'm
Yeah,
distracted. I'm doing something else. And
yeah,
then I expect them to understand. They won't. To your
yeah,
point, they're little. They're like their minds haven't actually developed.
yeah,
We're modeling behaviors to them. So I'm like,
yeah.
do I want to model this rage at my kids or anything like
Irritability.
that?
Yeah,
But I have to, like, that's the part where I'm like, how do I regulate my own emotions, but also acknowledge that my kids don't regulate their emotions the same way.
exactly.
Like,
Yeah,
I have this sometimes expectation that my two kids are going to react to something the same way, but they won't. They're
mm-hmm.
not the same kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like with my older one, he needs to let out his energy different. Like telling him to just sit down and calm down is not going to work the same way. But my daughter too, she doesn't like just sit down and calm down the same way. My son, he's at an age where he can understand a bit more reasoning, and I can
Yeah.
talk to him, and he likes to understand things. So I take the time to explain or prepare him ahead. Whereas my daughter, she actually is more into a deep pressure
Mm-hmm.
regulation. So I hug her strongly, I massage her. She comes down so much faster.
Yeah.
Whereas my son, now he's like, I want to do push ups
Yeah.
or I want to run.
Yeah.
And sometimes he tells me, I don't want to hug right now.
Yeah.
But I think I sent you this the other day where this guy was talking about love languages
Yeah.
and how sometimes we respond to people with our own love language thinking that that's what it means, but
Yeah.
you actually have to respond to them with their love language.
Yeah.
But in retrospect, that the same thing applies to calming or regulating our emotions. Sometimes we might think that, oh, for me, doing like walking by nature makes me calm, so I'm going to assume that it's going to work for the other person,
Yeah.
but it might
Exactly.
not,
Yeah.
you know. So again, it goes back to the same thing of really asking ourselves, what are our triggers, how can we address them, how can we be preventive
Mm-hmm.
when you know you react to certain things, what can you do ahead so that you're preventing it from escalating.
Yeah. Exactly.
um, because sometimes it might pop up all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Just hold space for it. Like yesterday, I was a ragey mom. I know I was a ragey mom. My hormones are all over the place again, and I know why. So I was feeling angrier and antsier than usual, and I actually just went up to my husband a couple of times. I'm like, I'm not feeling great today, and he just like listened to me a little bit, and then after that, I went back to him. I'm like, I'm not really feeling great today, and I was like, I'm waiting for him to give me
Yeah.
permission to say it's okay. And then
Yeah.
towards the end of the day, he just kind of looked at me. He's like, but I wasn't feeling great today either.
Yeah.
And that's the moment where I needed to center myself, where I'm like, it's all not always about me and my feelings.
Yeah.
He's a
I
human too. He's
understand
a
that.
parent
Yeah.
too. He's also tired. He's also frustrated. He's also, so I feel like sometimes there's so much space for the mom of us allowing ourselves to feel the feelings, but dads also feel it,
Yeah.
and it shows up differently for them. And so just like at the end of the day, we just both looked at each other. We're like, it was a shit day today
Yeah.
in some aspects, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Today is a new
Exactly.
day. Let's
Yeah.
let's do that. Anyway, I think at the end of the day, it's something that we keep coming back to in all of our talks. It's reframing things. And it's not about being like that toxic positivity where we're trying to be
No. No.
positive about things, but it's reframing it so that we remind ourselves we actually have more control than we think we do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because right now, like you said, you recognize that you get influenced by certain things on social media.
Yeah.
You can continue to just say it's social media problem, it's social media. Okay, but disconnect.
Exactly.
We have the choice to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's within our
Exactly.
control.
Yeah.
So that's that mindset shift that takes a lot of practice so that we can kind of reduce that chances of the rage kind of happening.
Yeah. We're all human at the end of the day. I mean, it's gonna happen. It happens to all of us. No matter how much we're gentle parenting and we're trying to regulate our emotions, sometimes it'll just creep up on us, and it's a sign pointing towards an unmet need and not shame, basically. So it's just to kind of recognize your own triggers, recognize your own needs, and work towards meeting those needs so that you can be a calmer mom at the end of the
Yeah,
day.
absolutely. Well, exactly. That's what it is that rather than fall into I'm being a bad mom or criticism or judgment for ourselves and falling into the shame and the guilt, it's recognizing that that's actually an indication that you need help, you need
Mm-hmm.
support, make space for that
Yeah.
because that's in our control, and not fall into the trap of also self-pity and
Yeah.
victimization and stuff like that, because
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
also not going
It's
to
not
serve us. It's
helpful.
not
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah.
So again, like how can we take action in those moments?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's preventing, so recognizing those things and preventing it from escalating, but then when it's actually happening,
Yeah.
how do you come back
Exactly.
instead of like festering in it? So same thing, go for a walk, take a breather, do acupressure, like go on your pressure points and press on them to calm yourself. Like these are things that you can actually do in the moment, and then there's the preventive aspect. But to be able to do all of that,
Yeah,
it's having that awareness that it exists.
exactly.
So that was really the intent
Recognizing
of
it.
today's
Yeah,
conversation, is to talk about the fact that mom rage is
a
a
real
real
thing.
thing.
Yeah,
Hold space for it. Talk about it with a friend. Talk about it with us if you like. Reach out to us. We have moms that kind of reach out to us and say that this really resonates with them. What are tips and tricks that you've been doing that kind of helps you? And with that in mind, we're gonna thank you for being patient with us, because we kind of did disappear, and we're back into it, and we're gonna continue reminding each other to give ourselves compassion and grace, and we thank you for listening to us.
thank you very much.
See you next time.